Hello and welcome to Nana's Crafty Home. My name is Tanya. Today's tutorial is going to show you how to complete the Wrap Me in Sunshine Shawl that you can find as a free pattern on my website. This shawl is made with Lion Brand Cupcake yarn. It's a DK weight, 3-weight yarn, so it's a lighter weight yarn, but I do think that this pattern would work up well in other size yarns as well. The great unique thing about the construction and the appearance of this shawl is that you start at the center of your shawl and then you work your way outwards. So you basically start with this middle square and then you add wings, as I call them, onto each side of it. So you end up with 2 wings to complete your shawl, and then I've added these really large tassels on either end. So it is a very unique looking. It has these jagged edges on both sides, as you can see here. So you end up with this really neat look, especially radiating out from the center square that we have. It's also very textured. I have ridges here using the back post double crochet and some nice texture using one of my favorite stitches, the puff stitch here. So all you're going to need to start this pattern is 2 cakes of the cupcake yarn that you can see here. I will make a note, both of my testers ended up using 2 cakes and had to break into a third one in order to complete their shawl. My first sample for the design, I used all of 2, but did not have to break into a third cake. So we're going to see what happens with this video where we end up with, but you do need 2 cakes in the video. This colorway is Sea Breeze. I think that this is going to look really great in this pattern. You're also going to need a size H or a 5.0 millimeter hook and stitch markers as well, and we will need 2 of those to get started. So to begin, get your yarn on your hook, go ahead and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This will count as my first stitch. 2 double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. So that furthest chain, work 2 double crochets. Chain 3. 3 double crochets in that same space. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and repeat that 3 double crochet, chain 3 2 more times. So in that same space, 3 more double crochets. 1, 2, 3, chain 3, and 3 more double crochets in that same space. 1, 2, 3, chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to slip stitch to the top of that chain 3, those skipped chains from the beginning. And that's the beginning of our square here. For row 2, we're going to go ahead and slip stitch into the next 2 stitches. And slip stitch into that corner space. Chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. Double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and 2 double crochets in that same corner space. Now we're going to work a back post double crochet in each stitch till we get to the next corner space. And so a back post double crochet is yarning over like we would for a regular double crochet, inserting our hook from behind around the post from the previous row, yarning over, pulling up a loop, yarning over, pull through two, yarn over, pull through two. So basically your double crochet is just worked around the post from the previous row from behind. So the next one, insert your hook from behind around that double crochet post, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through two and two, and work that same thing until we get to that corner space. And in the corner space we're going to work 2 double crochets, chain 3 and 2 double crochets, and then again a back post double crochet until we get to the next corner space. In the corner space, 2 double crochet, chain 3, 2 double crochet, back post double crochet in each stitch to the next corner, in the corner space, 2 double crochet, chain 3 and 2 double crochet, back post double crochet around each stitch to the next corner. Of course, this is the end of this round. So we've worked those 3 double crochets as a back post double crochet, and we want to slip stitch to the top of that first chain 3 that we did. 1, and see how that gives a nice ridge with that back post double crochet. So we're going to move on to round 3. Round 3, we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch, slip stitch into the corner space, chain 3, double crochet, chain 3, 2 double crochets, all in that same corner space. We're going to chain 1 and we're going to work our fillet round. And so we're going to skip the next stitch. We're going to work a double crochet in the next, chain 1, skip the next stitch, double crochet in the next, chain 1, skip the next stitch, double crochet in the next, chain 1, skip the next stitch, and we're at the corner space. And in the corner space we're going to go ahead and work 2 double crochets, chain 3, 2 double crochets, chain 1, skip the next stitch, double crochet in the next, chain 1, skip the next stitch, double crochet in the next, chain 1, skip the next, double crochet in the next, chain 1, skip the next stitch. We're in the corner space, so again 2 double crochets, chain 3, 2 double crochets, and then complete that around. In every corner space, 2 double crochet, chain 3s, and then in the fillets we chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the next. So complete that. So for round 4, go ahead and slip stitch into the next stitch, slip stitch into the corner space, chain 3, double crochet, chain 3, 2 double crochets in that same corner space. Then we're going to double crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, skip that next stitch, and we're going to work a puff stitch into this chain 1 space here. And a puff stitch is simply yarning over, inserting our hook into the stitch or space specified, yarning over, pulling up a loop, and we pull it up a little bit to give it some height, yarning over, insert our hook in the same space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, insert our hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, insert our hook, yarn over, pull up a loop. And we should have at this point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 loops on our hook. Yarning over, we're going to pull through all the loops on our hook, and then we're going to work a chain to complete the stitch and to close that stitch. So once we've worked our first puff stitch, we're going to go ahead and skip the next stitch, and we're going to work another puff stitch in the next chain 1 space. So yarning over, insert our hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, insert our hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, insert our hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, insert our hook, yarn over, pull up a loop. We do that a total of 4 times, yarning over at the end, pulling through all 9 loops on your hook, and then chaining 1 to close the stitch. So then skip the next stitch, work a puff in the next chain 1 space. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Chain 1. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we're doing that all the way down in those chain 1 spaces. We're working a puff stitch in each one, skipping the stitch in between. When we get to the end of the chain 1 spaces and we're getting close to that corner, we have these 2 stitches left. We're going to skip the next stitch here, and we're going to work a double crochet in that last stitch before the corner. And then we're going to work our corner as normal by working 2 double crochets, chain 3, and 2 double crochets in that same space, double crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, skip the next stitch, puff stitch in the next. And then chaining 1 to finish the stitch. Skip the next stitch, puff in the next. So continue working that around. You will work a puff stitch in every chain 1 space. At the end of those chain 1 spaces, you're going to skip the next stitch, double crochet in the next, and work your 2 double crochets, chain 3, and 2 double crochets in that corner space, and just continue working that sequence around. Now when we get to the end of round 4 and our puff stitches, we're going to see here that we have 2 stitches left over here at the end. And once we've done that last puff stitch in the last chain 1 space, we're going to want to skip that next stitch and work a double crochet in that last stitch. And I just want to point out that this is an easy stitch to miss when you're working these sections, because of course this is a repetitive pattern, and we're going to be coming back and repeating all of these rows that we've been working, and so this will be one of our repeats. And so I just want to make sure that I point out and that you pay really close attention to when you're working this round. Don't skip both of those stitches. You want to skip the next one after that last puff and work a double crochet in the next. So for every one of those puff stitch rounds, and this is a good way to kind of train yourself when you are looking at that before you move on to your next round, is you're going to check to make sure that you have 3 double crochets together at each of those corner spaces, and then that way you can make sure that your count is correct and you're not losing a stitch every time you're working this round. So let's move on to round 5 by working a slip stitch into the next stitch, a slip stitch into the corner space, work our corner space with a chain 3, double crochet, chain 3, oops, 2 double crochets. And this round after our puff stitch is going to simply be just a double crochet round all the way around, working our regular corner spaces with the 2 double crochet, chain 3 in each space, and then just simply working a double crochet in every single stitch. So you will pick up a double crochet here every stitch, and in every chain 1 space you're going to also work a double crochet. So at the top of each of those puff stitches, a double crochet, in the chain 1 space that we did, a double crochet. And just do that all the way around, and then working your normal corner space as we have been with the 2 double crochet, chain 3, 2 double crochet. At the end of round 5, we're going to go ahead and slip stitch to the top of that chain 3. This is a good time to verify your stitch count and make sure that you have the correct number of stitches. For round 5, you should have 76. So we're back into our repeat. And so essentially what you're doing is you're repeating sections from your back post double crochet all the way through those rounds that we just did. And every time you get to another back post double crochet, you'll come back and do that repeat again. So essentially for round 6, we're going to do another back post double crochet round. And then for rounds 7 through 13, we're going to be repeating rounds 3 through 6. So you'll go back, and after your back post double crochet, you'll then come back and work your fillet round. Then you'll come back and work your puff stitch round. You'll do a regular double crochet round, and then you're back to your back post double crochet. You're going to end after round 13, and that's going to end you on round 5. So you're going to finish your square on a double crochet round. So don't move on to your back post double crochet round after round 13. You will fasten off at that point, and when I come back, we will start adding on our first wing. Once you've completed round 13, you see here I have my middle square is done, and I have gone ahead and fastened off. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start that first wing section. And so you're going to need your 2 stitch markers here, and it doesn't make any difference which corner you choose. Just make sure that you have the right side facing when you begin working it, and the right side is going to be that ridged side where the ridges are sticking up here. And you're going to count stitches from your corner space and from any corner space. So we're just going to count 10 stitches from a corner space here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And we're going to place a stitch marker in that stitch. And then we're going to go to the opposite corner, because essentially we're going to begin working here, and we're going to work along this side, around this corner, and then down this side. So in that opposite corner from where we just placed our stitch marker, so just on this opposite corner here, we're going to now count 10 stitches in this direction. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Go ahead and place a stitch marker in that stitch. So now we're ready to go ahead and begin putting that first wing section on our shawl. And that is basically just going to be repeating really the same stitch pattern that we used for the middle section here. It's just that we're just going to be adding them on in sections, fastening off once a section is complete, and then repeating basically what we just did here with counting stitches over and adding on to those wings. So the next row, that first row of wing, is going to be my back post double crochet. And we know that because that's where we would be in that repetitive stitch pattern. That next row should be a back post double crochet. So we're going to attach our yarn, and because it's a back post double crochet, typically you would attach your hook into those top 2 loops. I'm going to bring this down here so we can see what we're doing. Typically when I would attach to those top 2 loops, but because we're doing a back post double crochet and I want the whole row to look the same and ridged up, instead of attaching at that top, I'm going to attach around that post as if I were getting ready to do a back post double crochet. And I'm going to just attach my yarn that way and then do a chain 2, and that chain 2 is going to count as a stitch here and throughout the rest of my pattern. And now we're going to begin working a back post double crochet going down the rest of this section. And you might ask, well, why did you do a chain 2 and not a chain 3? And the reason being is because the height of that stitch is going to be shorter because you're working around that double crochet post from that previous row. And so I'm doing a chain 2 to make that the same height as my back post double crochet stitches. And so essentially I'm really just working a back post double crochet, and I'm going to continue that all the way down to my corner space. So in my corner space here, 2 double crochet, chain 3, and 2 double crochet. And now along this side, I will do the same thing, a back post double crochet, working 1 in each stitch all the way through that stitch marker. So just go ahead and continue on with that back post double crochet. When you get to that final stitch marker, you will work a back post double crochet around that stitch as well, and we've completed row 1 of our first section here. So now we're going to turn, and we're going to be working in rows now. So we will be turning at the end of each row. Go ahead and chain 4. That chain 4, because we're working our fillet round now, that chain 4 is going to count as my first stitch plus a chain 1. So you're simply going to work a fillet row here by skipping the next stitch and double crocheting in the next, chain 1, skip the next stitch, double crochet in the next, and just repeat that on down till you get to that corner space, and then work your normal corner of 2 double crochets, chain 3, and 2 double crochets, and then fillet down to the end of the row. So we're getting to the end of our row here. Go ahead and do your final double crochet at the top of that chain 2 from the previous row. And we have completed row 2, and we're going to turn our work. And now we're going to be working a puff stitch row, and that is going to be with starting a chain 2, and we're going to do a puff stitch in each chain 1 space, and then of course finishing with the chain 1, skipping the next stitch, and puff stitch in the next. So work a puff stitch in each chain 1 space to the corner. We're at the corner here. We've worked a puff stitch in that final chain 1 space. I've worked that chain 1 to complete the puff stitch. I'm going to skip the next stitch, and then I'm going to work a double crochet in that next stitch right before the corner, and work my corner as usual with 2 double crochets, chain 3, and 2 double crochets. Work a double crochet in that next stitch, chain 1, skip the next stitch, puff stitch in that chain 1 space. And then along this side, we're going to just continue on with that, working a puff stitch in every chain 1 space to the end. I've worked a puff stitch in each chain 1 space, completing that last one with that chain 1 space, and then I'm going to work a half double crochet in the top of that final stitch. And that completes row 3. We're going to turn our work. And for row 4, this is going to be a simple double crochet row. So chain 3, which counts as a stitch, and then you will just simply work 1 double crochet in each chain 1 space and in each stitch until you get to the corner. In the corner, you will work your normal 2 double crochet, chain 3, 2 double crochet, and then double crochet all along the other side as well to the end. So we've worked a double crochet in each stitch and chain 1 space to the end here, and then you're just going to double crochet in that final stitch. So I've completed the first 4 rows of that first section, and all you're going to do now is repeat those previous 4 rows that we did to complete this first section. So you'll just go on and do your back post double crochet row will be next, then a fillet row, a puff stitch row, and then a final double crochet row before we fasten this section off and move on to the second section. So go ahead and repeat rows 1 through 4 up through row 8 is when we will fasten off. Once you have finished those first 8 rows of that wing, you're going to go ahead and fasten off. Then we're basically just going to be repeating that same section of 8 rows. We're going to do that 3 more times. And what we're going to do for each one of those last 3 sections of 8 rows is count 11 stitches over with our right side facing. Just count 11 stitches over from the beginning and the ends of the row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Placing our stitch marker. And then on the other side, doing the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, and placing a stitch marker. So what we're going to do now is just repeat those last 8 rows that we did again between those two stitch markers. We'll do that 3 more times, fastening off in between each section of 8 and then counting over 11 on that last row. And then once we have completed that last section, so you'll have a total of 4 sections. Once you've completed that last one, I'll come back and show you how to do that final edging row. Once you've completed the 4th section, so you can see here, here's my middle square and a section here, so 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 8 rows to each section. We're ready to do that very simple edging that's just going to finish that edge of the shawl, give it a little bit more of a polished and finished look. So to do that, go ahead and turn, and we're going to chain 1 and single crochet in the same stitch. Chain 1, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, single crochet in the next stitch. So just a really simple way to give it a little bit more visual interest than just a single crochet edge, yet not detract from the shawl in any way. So continue on to get to that corner space. Once you're to the corner space, single crochet in that last stitch, chain 1, and in the corner space you're going to work a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, chain 1, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, and then just continue that same pattern all the way to the end of this row. Now that we've completed one wing of the shawl, we're ready to go ahead and add the second wing onto the other side. So here's my middle square, and you can see this is the section that added my wing. And so now we're going to be adding the second wing onto the other side of the shawl, the unused section. So we're going to repeat that same thing that we did for the first wing and count over our 10 stitches from this first corner and place a stitch marker. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then on the opposite side, do the same thing, count over 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and place our stitch marker. So this will be where we add another wing. So you're going to repeat exactly what we just did for the other side on this section. Now I'm going to make a note about color controlling. I did color control in this section particularly for my shawl. I wanted a similar appearance coming out of the center on both sides. I wanted it to look the same, radiating out of the center square. So I finished the square with kind of this peachy look. So I've already started working, brought in my second cake here. And you can see if I were to begin right where I left off on the edge of that shawl, I would be heading backwards to this color here. So I really don't want to do that. I want to kind of pick up where I left off on this edge of that square. So I'm going to look at my cake and see where I would need to start. And you can see I've already done a couple rows of the peach. So I'm probably going to want to go a little bit into this peach color, matching it up so that they are the same. And that's where I'm going to want to start the cake on this side of the shawl, so that way it will match going outwards. So I'm going to just pull out the center here. And you will be using all of this yarn, but you'll just have to come back and pull it into your scarf when you've completed working through this section. So once you're at where you think you want to be, go ahead and start working your scarf, beginning where you cut your cake and repeating all that wing section as we did on the other side. When I come back, I will show you how to make the large tassels and add those to your shawl. So I have finished crocheting my shawl, and now I'm ready to go ahead and make my tassels. I did end up with enough yarn to make 2 decent sized tassels here. This is all that's left over from my 2 cakes, so yay. 2 cake shawl here. I didn't need to break into a 3rd cake. So all you need to do to make a tassel is a book, a piece of cardboard. This is a sturdy piece of cardboard. Anything that you can wrap yarn around, something that's not too flimsy that's going to fold or bend. Any size that you want. This is about 4.5 inches. I think that's a little bit smaller than my original tassels. I think I went with a 6-inch tassel. Just remember that whatever the size is that you are wrapping around, that is the length of your tassel. So my tassel will be 4.5 inches tall. And then you're just going to wrap it as many times as you would like, how full or chunky you want yours to be. I'm going to go with about 70 wraps. So just wrap loosely around because you want to be able to pull this off easily. So just loosely wrap around the amount of times that you wish, and I'm going to do that 70 times. Once you've wrapped your yarn the desired amount of times, you're going to cut your yarn even with the bottom, and then just slide this off your cardboard or whatever it is that you used. Keep that in a loop. You want to keep that loop open. So I'm just going to set that to the side. And I'm going to cut 3 probably 8-inch pieces, so double this up. Want 3 sections of yarn equal in length or thereabouts. Okay, so you're going to take one of those and you're going to thread it through the center around to the other side. And you're going to tie that off at the top. And this is the yarn that you're going to be using to sew it to the shawl. So you want to tie this in a knot really well to secure it and make sure it doesn't come undone. So probably a couple different times here. Okay. And you want to keep that separated from the rest of the tassel because we don't want that to get mixed in with the rest of our strands here. Then you're going to take another one of those strands and just lay that tassel on top of it. Come down 1/2 inch, an inch or so from the top and tie it again. And again, tie that tightly. Knot it off really well. Now we're just going to, at the bottom of the tassel here, we're just going to take our scissors and just cut the bottom evenly. Then if we need to do any trimming, this is when you would do that as well. Those strands that I use to tie might be a little bit longer than the rest of it. Just trim what you need to trim. Make it nice and even on the bottom. And that's your first tassel. So make 2 of those and then we'll add those to our shawl. Okay, so I've made both tassels and I did forget to show you, I had a third strand of yarn that I did not show you what to do with, and you basically just wrap it in the same place as the second one here just to secure it and give it a little more stability. So that third one gets tied on here as well, and then go ahead and cut the ends if needed. So these just get added on to the ends of my shawl here. So at the very point on both sides, you're going to take these 2 strands that we saved aside there from the top of our tassel, and those are going to be what we use to attach it. And really, it's just a matter of attaching it securely to the end and then weaving in the end. So just securely fasten onto the shawl. You want to make sure that it doesn't come off, so you're going to give it several different passes here. Come down. And then once you feel like it's secure enough on the end, you can just go ahead and weave that end in. And then you'll do the same thing with the second strand of yarn. And it's just as easy as that. My tassel has been attached. You can go ahead and do that to the second end, and that's all there is to it. The Wrap Me in Sunshine Shawl, a lot of fun to make, fun to wear, very versatile. If you've enjoyed this tutorial, please remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can get notified when I post new videos. Also, remember to follow me on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you make any of my patterns and share them on social media, please add hashtag Nana's Crafty Home so that I can see your wonderful creations and all the amazing things that you do with my patterns. It's been great being here today. I hope to see you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.